Have you ever returned home after a long day, hoping for comfort, only to feel that something was terribly wrong? This is the story of Renjiro, an ordinary man whose quiet evening suddenly turned into a nightmare. Renjiro tossed his coat onto the couch, rubbing his temples as his headache grew sharper. He rolled his sleeves up and walked straight toward the washroom, expecting to find his wife, Ayaka, but she wasn't there. He paused for a moment. Maybe she was outside in the garden, or relaxing near the swimming pool. Still, something about the silence in the house felt strange. He swallowed a pill to calm the pain and looked around again. Normally, Ayaka was always home by this hour, waiting in their room or sitting in the lounge. But today the house felt empty. Too empty. "Renjiro, where's Ayaka?" he asked the maid as he stopped midway, his phone in hand. "She hasn't returned yet, sir," the maid answered quietly. Renjiro glanced at the clock, unease growing in his chest. He dialed Ayaka's number. No answer. He called again. Still nothing. Finally, he phoned her friend Hana, who explained that Ayaka had left her home almost 2 hours ago, but she never arrived. Renjiro's heart began to race. Something wasn't right. Ayaka never stayed out this late without telling him. With each passing second, his worry grew heavier. He was about to rush out with his car, keys, when a piercing scream echoed through the house. Sir. It was the maid, her voice trembling in panic. Renjiro's blood ran cold. Without wasting a second, he sprinted toward the sound, his footsteps echoing against the floor. And then, he saw her. Ayaka. She was lying motionless on the ground, her maid kneeling beside her, desperately shaking her shoulders. For one horrifying moment, Renjiro thought she was gone. His chest tightened, his breath caught. But when he dropped to his knees and pressed his fingers against her wrist, he felt it, a pulse, weak but still there. Relief washed over him. Yet it was mixed with a deep terror he had never felt before. That single second before finding her pulse, it was like his soul had slipped away. Renjiro scooped her into his arms, carrying her back to their room while the maid quickly dialed the family doctor. He laid Ayaka gently on the bed, brushing her hair from her face, whispering her name. But she didn't respond. He checked her again for injuries, nothing serious, except faint red marks on her wrist. Marks that made his blood boil with silent rage. Minutes later, the family doctor arrived, a calm, sharp-eyed woman named Dr. Suyin. Renjiro stood beside the bed, arms crossed, his eyes fixed on every move she made. "Her physical health seems fine," Dr. Suyin finally said, examining Ayaka closely. "This isn't an injury. It looks more like shock. Something must have frightened her deeply." Renjiro's jaw tightened. Shock? From what? She had been perfectly fine this morning. Laughing, smiling, heading out to shop with Hana. What could possibly have broken her down like this? When the doctor left, Renjiro pulled up a chair and sat right beside Ayaka. He held her hand gently, though his anger burned underneath. His eyes fell again on those faint finger-shaped marks around her wrist. Whoever had done this would regret it. Hours passed before Ayaka finally stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused, filled with terror. She sat up with a sudden jolt, her breath sharp and uneven. Hey, it's okay. I'm here," Renjiro whispered, pulling her into his arms. His hand rubbed her back, steadying her trembling body. "You're safe. You're fine. Look at me." Slowly, her vision settled. She clutched his arm tightly, grounding herself in his presence. "Renjiro, you're here," she breathed, almost as if she couldn't believe it. He wrapped his arms around her, letting her lean against his chest. For long minutes, he simply held her, giving her space to calm down. But in his heart, he knew, whatever had happened to her out there was something far darker than he imagined. Renjiro stroked her hair softly, his voice low. "Ayaka, tell me, what happened?" For a long moment, she said nothing. Her lips trembled, her eyes glassy, lost in memories she had tried so hard to bury. Finally, with a shaky breath, she whispered, "I hid something from you, something from my past." Renjiro stayed silent, giving her the space to speak. "There was a man before you, a relationship I never wanted to remember. He was toxic, controlling, jealous, and eventually abusive. He hated when anyone even looked at me. I broke it off, but it took me years to heal. That's why I never told you. I didn't want those memories to exist anymore." Her voice cracked, tears filling her eyes. "But today, I saw him again. At the mall." Renjiro's chest clenched. "I froze," Ayaka continued. I had security, but it was like my body just wouldn't move. I told Hana to go home because I didn't want him near her. I thought I could manage it, but he followed me. He made me lie to the guards, said I was going to a friend's place. Then he took me away. Her hands trembled in Renjiro's grip, and his heart sank as he noticed her refusing to meet his eyes. He didn't hurt me physically, but when I told him I was married, he snapped. He threatened me, Renjiro. He said if I don't leave you, he'll go after everyone I love. My friends, my family, you. The room fell silent, heavy with the weight of her confession. Renjiro closed his eyes, fighting the storm inside him. How had she endured all this alone? How had he not known? Ayaka pressed her forehead into his chest, sobbing quietly. I didn't want to hide anything anymore. I trust you. I didn't want this past to touch our life. Renjiro held her tighter, his voice low but steady. No one, absolutely no one threatens my wife. I'll take care of it. Renjiro stayed by Ayaka's side until she finally drifted into uneasy sleep. He kissed her forehead, whispered for her to rest. But the storm inside him was far from calm. As soon as the maid brought food and made sure Ayaka was comfortable, Renjiro left the room, his eyes burning with silent fury. It wasn't difficult to track him down. Men like Ayaka's ex always left trails, and Renjiro had the resources, the connections, and the rage to follow them. When he finally found him, there was no hesitation. No words exchanged, only wrath. The man begged, pleaded, tried to explain, but Renjiro wasn't listening. His mind played images of Ayaka trembling, her wrists bruised, her eyes filled with terror. That was enough to unleash the monster inside him. He took his time. Every strike, every scream, every wound was his answer to the years of pain Ayaka had endured. The man's skin burned, his body broken, yet Renjiro's fury only grew. It wasn't just revenge, it was justice. And when it was over, when the fire had consumed what was left, Renjiro stood silently, watching the ashes scatter. For the first time that night, his breathing slowed. But even then he knew, no punishment would ever erase what Ayaka had suffered. Still, he made himself a promise right there, never again. Never would he allow her to face fear, not even from him. She was his to protect, for life. When Renjiro returned home, the night had grown heavy and silent. He slipped into the room quietly, expecting Ayaka to be asleep, but as if she could feel his presence, her eyes opened slowly. Renjiro, she whispered, her voice weak but filled with relief. Without a word, he climbed into the bed beside her. Ayaka immediately curled into his chest, resting her head against his heartbeat, as if it was the only place she felt safe. You don't have to worry anymore, he murmured, kissing her forehead softly. His thumb brushed over the faint marks on her wrist, a silent reminder of the nightmare she had lived through. No one will ever hurt you again. Ayaka's eyes glistened with emotion as she looked at him. Thank you. For staying, for protecting me. She pressed a gentle kiss against his cheek, her touch tender, her gaze filled with love. Renjiro wrapped both arms around her, holding her hand tightly between his fingers as if anchoring her to him. Slowly, her breathing calmed, and she drifted back to sleep, safe in his embrace. He stayed awake a little longer, watching her, whispering promises only she could hear. Promises of safety, of love, of a life where no shadows from the past could reach her again. And in that moment, Renjiro knew, whatever darkness the world held, he would burn it all down if it ever dared touch her again. Outro for YouTube audience. This was the story of Renjiro and Ayaka, a story of love, fear, and vengeance. What would you do if someone from your partner's past came back to destroy your peace? Tell me in the comments below. And don't forget, more stories like this are coming soon.